primary purpose of the North Ottawa Impoundment Project is flood damage reduction.
Every watershed is trying to do something. Every watershed is trying to build impoundments.
Now we've got another project designed.
The hardest thing to do is acquire the lands that you need in order to build these kind of projects. They're not built on what would be traditionally thought of as second class or wasteland. We're out in a prime agricultural area. What I think the Bois de Sioux Watershed District has tried to do is be quite patient about it and slowly acquire the lands that you need then over time, and when you reach kind of a critical mass there, go ahead and build the project. A lot of projects like this add up to a meaningful reduction in flow on the main stem. If you ask most any water manager what's the #1 concern in the Red River Valley, well, it's flood control.
It actually causes flooding.
But the water quality question that we've got to deal with.
Anytime these impoundment areas come in, that's a sediment basin. We're dropping suspended solids out. We're dropping a lot out of the water. Anytime we're doing this flood work, we're cutting back on stream bank erosion. Well, if we can give some relief to the flow on that, would reestablish their natural bank that's been eroded away. We're in the process of setting this up for biomass harvesting, cattail harvesting. By taking the cattails off them 600 acres, we'll be removing about 6,600 pounds of phosphorus. That's a lot of phosphorus out of the inflows to Lake Winnipeg. By doing that, we've taken 75 sections of land and done really their water quality work for them. Those owners in that area just had a big load taken off their shoulder. We should be able to put together areas in our impoundment areas to do a lot of work on the landscape to help farmers to do their share. To me, that's the win situation in water quality that I'm seeing for our particular watershed right now. A sustainable removal system, and we're doing it on a flood control project. I'm encouraged to see this work because this is a major step towards water quality in the Red River and beyond. The water quality issues are coming to the forefront. Nitrate is going to be a coming issue because our water flows to Canada. We're getting to the day that the decision is going to come from higher up than us. Probably the first ones will be the United States State Department and the Canadian State Department. We provide 30% of the water and 70% of the nutrients going into the lake. Something's out of whack there. At some point in time, this has got to be handled. To capture and go out on every farm and do what would be necessary to address water quality, would it be cheaper for the state of Minnesota to do regulations instead of incentives? And I think we best be prepared to try and handle something ourselves rather than let somebody else handle it for us. The technology we have with the smart farming, with the variable rate fertilizer, we can take care of it.
Well, that's what you want.
Probably the last 5-6 years I've contemplated doing tiling.
We've told the landowners that are upstream from that project, they obviously have drainage problems too. They could do some drainage improvements up there because we have a place to put the water.
In the very beginning, we drew out the plan for pattern tiling.
My role when someone like Brian walks in is, okay, show me what you want to do. I look at it from our watershed perspective and say, yeah, I think we can make this work. Maybe if we tweak the design a little bit here or there.
As time went along, we just always had in the back of our mind we were going to put a shut-off system on it. It's a level control flow. It's like a miniature little dam thing in the ground. You can regulate the height of the water table, and we've got something now. We can get the water table down. We can get on there in the spring and not fight this high water table, and at the same time, don't overdo it. We can hold this water back, and hopefully July and August we'll have some of that water to use.
When we look at it from a quantity standpoint, the times that we need storage in the soil for water are times when he doesn't care because he doesn't have a crop growing on it. It's in the spring. And then if he's got the ability to dry it out in a reasonable amount of time, we don't care what he does with this structure through the summer. He can manage it for his crop.
I am going to, in the next year's time, back up further in the main header system. We're going to install one more of these. It's a nice piece of ground the way it's laying. There's about 3 feet of total variance in the ground from the highest to the lowest point. And that should give us a little better control of the whole field. pretty ideal for making something like this work. You can hold some of this back in the soil, and it doesn't have to all take off, helping a double situation, drainage and holding something back.
When you put the controls on, it gives you an opportunity to control nutrient load. To me, it's a simple solution. Farmers will see 15 to 20% yield increase by managing the system.
If you're thinking about doing controlled drainage, you got to plan ahead. Hopefully we can convince some people that this is the right thing to do. If it doesn't rain a whole lot.
Tiling contractors are really keying in on this too. If we operate these types of things properly, we can actually help reduce peak flows on the Red.
At this point in time, there's more cooperation happening than has ever been done in the Red River Valley. Everybody sits on the flood damage reduction group, from NRCS to FSA, DNR, MPCA, Corps of Engineers. You know, we have farm groups on it, trying to develop policy, how we can keep moving forward. Work on a watershed basis with a one plan. We have that now passed through the legislature. So we're coordinated up and down the valley, because our watersheds are represented from here to the Canadian line.
So you have to have kind of a series of projects throughout your watershed to hold that water as it's causing you problems. With putting together all of the pieces, the components, making sure all of the parties at the table are happy with the project and how it's going to be done. If the money were there, it still takes 4 to 5 years to put the project together from the beginning to the end. We'll be building projects probably over the next 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 years. So one at a time, we'll have to chip away and get these things done.
The North Ottawa project, it's been a prototype. We've had a lot of people out of Washington to see it. That's a consensus building amongst the environmental groups and the local groups.
It took us 100 years to get where we're at, people trying to fix the drainage problems in the area. It's going to take us a while to swing it back the other way where it's a little more tolerable.
It really does kind of empower water managers who are typically more observers during these major events to actually have things they can do to reduce the flood impacts. Now you actually have a lever you can pull. It is a real good feeling.
I find this just to be really neat. I like to see the wildlife. Swans right next to the road, you bet. You'll see swans all over the place around here now. In the last 10 years. Before that, it was very, very seldom you'd see a swan, and now, yes, they're part of the migration route. You look off in the front in the distance, it's all birds up there. And the DNR's always talked about the corridor issue. We can build a corridor with these projects. We can build exactly what the wildlife needs.
One landowner.
After everybody saw the benefits that were going to be realized from the project, I think most everybody has come around to the idea that we can't hold all the water. It's got to be up and down the whole valley. It's going to take a bunch of them. I've been told by the engineers that it would probably take 3 or 4 of them just to keep our smaller river in check right here. If there's going to be more of these projects that come into reality in the next few years, why we'll get just that much more benefit out of it.
I think North Ottawa is kind of the prototype of what can and will be done in the future.